The 2025 Los Angeles wildfires have left this indelible mark on our community in the United States, not only physically, but certainly emotionally. And that's why I welcome you to On Air with Dr. Pete, where we discuss things and learn strategies to manage life in its difficulties. And so, if you hear a little somberness in my voice or just a heaviness, that's what that is. And I wanted to just get something out there to say, we're with you. I was at a basketball game yesterday and here on the East Coast in New Jersey, and the student section had New Jersey loves California signs, and that was nice. And we were actually playing a university from California, and it's nice when we can spread the love even in competition. And so we're going to begin to rebuild, and it's crucial to address the psychological impact of the disaster. And shout out to all my loved ones out there, and many of you that might listen to us also on When East Meets West, that Dr. Nikki Rubin, she's in this area, and so she's been directly affected, and so thankfully safe in body, but certainly will have her own kind of emotional challenges that all of us will have as we deal with this. So I just wanted to get something out there, just a little bit of shout out to say, whenever there's trauma like this, this is a collective traumatic experience. And as psychologists, what we look at is just really saving and creating space. It's not about any kind of intervention or any kind of fixing. I mean, there's nothing that one can do that creates any kind of escape or peace when something is this traumatic. And so what you want to do, for those potentially practitioners or Red Cross folks that might be out there providing some support, is just create that space, hold it. Nothing to be said. These are types of things, these natural disasters can create post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. Certainly will kind of lead to aftermaths of depression, anxiety. And while, you might say, oh, well, and you I've read about this where people be like, oh, well, you're just rich and who cares, but no matter how much money or resources people have, they still have basic emotions. They still have feelings. And this is traumatic, and so yes, maybe they could rebuild their house, but the anxiety of having to just run away from your home, or certainly you've seen some views of people just trying to maybe get their animals out, watching horses. I often think about that, like what are the animals, they can't process like our brain does. And so can we just really think about what people are kind of experiencing in this? And so a lot of studies show that the direct exposure to these large scale kind of fires will absolutely increase risk for PTSD and depression. And so again, no matter what your resources look like. And so this might be things like intrusive memories, flashbacks, avoidance from reminders, negative changes in mood or thought patterns, heightened anxiety, hypervigilance. And again, in this moment, as we're just really just healing and managing this, acutely, it's not that we're going to identify those things, because of course anyone in that area is going to feel lots of different emotions. So it's not about trying to fix or change any of that. It's simply about trying to understand this is likely what's going to come up. And so what can we do? Establish safety. Be with people you want to be with. Create secure environments. And so maybe this is the time that you just need to go to a loved one that you haven't seen in a while. And again, you need resources for that, but, am I able to take a train, a bus? Can I take a flight? Maybe just to, be with people that kind of make me feel good. That's also about social support. So if I can't leave, maybe just connect over FaceTime. Be sure to text people. Certainly with social media, we have features, I guess, to mark yourself safe. I mean, those are all good things, but they're not fully kind of rewarding or connecting. And so see if you can try and figure out ways that you can create and seek social support. Limit your media exposure. So no matter what topic I'm talking about, you will hear me say that. Boundaries around usage. And so I always have my 2 or 3 media resources, and I boundary that where I get it in the morning. And that's usually it. I mean, maybe once in a while I'll get it at night. But it's if there's like an intense thing going on in the world, but in general, limit it. It's being constantly exposed to it won't change the outcomes. And then always there's professional help. So on Air with Dr. P, we've got resources for you. You can kind of click the links and see that. So Also, I was talking to a colleague friend of mine who said he feels kind of helpless, and so he just donated some money to an organization, and so that's something else you can consider. If you feel like there's not much you can do and you feel helpless, if you have the means, perhaps you do that. Any of the sort of places that you're connected with. I've mentioned Red Cross, but could also be Salvation Army or other mental health clinics, other agencies that are around trying to kind of support people that have maybe been displaced from their homes, things of that nature. So we also have to think about healthcare providers. So being here in the East Coast, certainly we still have impacts from 9/11. And whether or not you were born then, or if you remember that day, firefighters are still to this day really impacted by that. So I've watched and read about firefighters from all over the world coming in, which is another sort of beautiful thing that at least to kind of bringing us together in a time where we can certainly benefit from that. So of course we don't want it to be from this type of tragedy, but then just having to have some kind of space for that. And so if you have someone in your family or a neighbor that maybe is a firefighter, maybe just shoot them a text or say hello. Let them know that you're there for them. That's one of the things that's important during this really acute traumatic time. Just let people know you're there. Again, it's not about fixing or eliminating the feeling. It's about just saying, we got this, I got you. Maybe telling a funny story, just again, holding that space. So healing from the trauma of the wildfires is going to be a journey. And the Los Angeles community is going to have to undertake that together. And again, I think that there's a bit of that coming togetherness happening. And so hopefully in this episode you learned some like signs and ways of just sort of fostering resilience and seeking support, so that this way people can kind of emerge from this in a stronger sort of way, because no matter what, this is absolutely a disaster. And whether or not anyone in the area, again, I know I happen to have a bunch of colleagues and some friends that live out there, but even if you don't, it's likely going to have been impacted to you. So just trying to, again, create a little bit of space, recognize this sort of collective trauma. That's what we'd call it in the psychological perspective. And then if I build in a little bit of Zen as I wrap up, nothing's forever. And so it stinks that it takes this kind of trauma. But, impermanence is something that we're taught in Zen. And many of us, I know there was like articles around Kim Kardashian when she was, I think it was in Paris, when she was constantly posting and, with all her jewelry. And so when she was at an event, I believe there were some robbers that came in and knew that there was a lot of jewelry in her rooms, and some, robbed it. And so those are material things. And I believe after that, she kind of had this like commitment to sort of free, kind of no frills, less jewelry sort of living. And that's a Zen teaching. And I don't want, neighborhoods and all these memories to just be burned to the ground. And it is a true image of impermanence. And so in your life, can you practice that today, no matter where you are in the world? What is it that you're holding on to? Because when we hold on to things, that's what creates suffering. That's the first noble truth. That creates suffering. And so while intellectually we understand impermanence, and intellectually we may understand that, thankfully I'm in good mind and body, and I was able to kind of escape. Unlike, I think, at this point of recording, there's about, I think there was 24 people that have lost their lives to these fires. So, and I suspect that number will increase. So, not that we want any kind of loss in that way. While we're living, can we create, an action to, feel less attached to things, to homes, to items, because ultimately all we have is ourselves. And once we can build that without these, traumas, that's when we can really find inner peace. And ultimately that's what I'm trying to do, for the world in which I live. So, shout out love to all those in on the West Coast and in the Los Angeles area. If you pray for them, praying for you, kind of sending some good love and hoping that you all, find safety and find some peace in this collective trauma. So thank you always for tuning in. This is On Air with Dr. Pete. If you liked this episode, please follow, like, and share with all your friends and people, and listen to it wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. So we will see you all next week. Until then, spread a little kindness and stay well.